So, we said let us start designing an IoT system. See, I'd like to do this like a classroom style rather than presenting slides, right? That way, we are all on same page and we can go a little slow. Okay. So, all of us said we want to design an IoT system, right? Now, the question is, what do you need to ask before we go ahead and build something, right? This is important to answer, isn't it? Because without this, then we might be, going around in circles. Yeah. So, what are the kind of questions that we should ask before we build something? So, application or the need, right? So, application is the first thing. Within that, what?
Whether it is economically viable or can benefit to the economy.
So, the cost of implementing something, right? Cost constraints.
Time constraint.
Time and cost. Yeah. I think cost in a way also decides time. Yeah. Anything else? What are we trying to sense, right? So that's the more important thing, that what are we trying to sense, right? So does it mean we are looking for, depending on the application, this will change, right? So what are we trying to sense? And then what else?
What would be the volume of sensing in the sense scalability perhaps?
Or end users, yeah, that is boils down to the application also, right? But what is the environment that in which this is deployed? More specific to this, environment means what? Where are we deploying our system? That is true, but specifically what do we care in an environment? Operating conditions, exactly. So what is the operating conditions, right? Which means what? No, operating conditions means, like, look at it more like a hardware deployment, right? So this has to go somewhere, right? So what do you care about in this?
Exposure to rain, exposure to heat.
So yeah, temperature, humidity levels, right? Anything else? Height, images. Yeah, so that is an application, right? So what are we trying to sense? Yeah, that's a good point. So accuracy or resolution of sensing, right? This is another thing to care about. Should we measure temperature with 1 degree resolution or 0.1 degree resolution, 0.01 degree, right? Yeah, with resolution comes something else also, connected problem. No, sensing resolution. No, resolution of sensing something. You resolve something first and then what else? When you say temperature, you have a certain, No. When you say temperature, it has a certain resolution that you measure with, and range, right? So what is the range of measurement?
So the sampling rate.
You said,
frequently do we
correct. So somebody also said power consumption. We will take up each of this and then sampling rate. Anything else?
number of devices?
That is in application. Anything else? Delay. Right? Do you want the information with the delay or not? Right? Anything else? Wireless or wired? You think of anything else?
Energy source.
Supply. This is the consumption. At the same time, you also want to power it with some source. What is the source? This is consumption of the device, and somebody has to supply that power. Where does that come from? Okay. Anything else? User interface. Yeah, that's how do you want to present this information?
If we are going to do wireless, then what is the range over which transmission can happen? What type of modulation?
Yeah.
Protocol.
Okay, so you see now that every single one of them has so many corresponding questions to be asked, right? So, for example, let's take cost constraints, right? So, how does this impact the design?
So when you took the example of ambulance, why people are not making it because it is not business viable.
Yeah, that is one aspect of it, right? The other is from the hardware design aspect of it, right? How does cost come into picture? No, hardware. Yes,
The
that
type
is
of
true.
OS which we want to implement in the designing of a specific IoT type.
Yeah,
So that will be the hardware specific, and
that will be hardware specific.
So
Yeah.
hardware will be going to affect the system which we are going to design.
Exactly. My question is that let's say you want to achieve some application, right? Deploy an IoT system for an application. What are the questions you want to ask before you start designing this system, right? So in that respect, we said cost is a constraint to consider. Now I am asking you, how does it impact
Whether we are making system on chip kind of device or we are using the modules.
modules, right? So if you, which is cheaper?
System on chip in longer.
In which is cheaper, combining modules or building your own chip, for example? Depends on volume. Exactly. If you want to buy modules and assemble it, they are good if the numbers are small, right? But the moment you want to deploy, let's say hundreds of thousands or millions of devices, going for a chip is better, right? So at least from the cost point of view, it makes sense to go with integrated technologies if the cost is, if the numbers are very high. Okay, but that is one aspect. But then what is, how does cost play in terms of choosing the components? Durability or reliability, right? So basically you can get the same temperature sensor for, let's say, 5 rupees. You can also get a different temperature sensor for 100 rupees, right? Why would you choose one or the other? The answer to that is, how long will it last, right? If the device is only supposed to work for, let's say, 1 year and you want to discard it later, then a cheaper solution may be good, right? But if it's much more has to work for critical applications. So reliability needs to be considered. How durable or reliable some particular system has to be. This also has impact on the choice of materials you use for building the hardware. It also has impact on the temperature. So usually devices in hardware come at different operating condition for different operating conditions. Cheaper devices are for consumer grade, right? If you want to go for automotive or military grade, which work at a higher temperature range, they are obviously much more costlier than for consumer applications. Okay, that is something to keep in mind, right? So again, that's what I am talking of also in terms of operating conditions, right?
Ruggedness of
Exactly. So if the system is facing, harsh environment for especially industry applications, right, where this is next to some kind of an engine which is operating at, let's say, 200 Celsius or something, right? So obviously a sensor which is meant for consumer may not be good enough, right? You cannot think of low cost plastics to mount that device, right? It has to be in some kind of metal casing, right? So the moment you choose those materials instead of cheaper materials, the cost goes up, right? Obviously this is a connected problem, right? As the operating constraints increases, so does the cost of the implementation of hardware, right?
from the bottom on the relative cost.
Exactly. So improving any of this except power consumption will increase the cost. Okay.
Overconsumption is indirect cost to the
Power consumption is indirect cost, but the goal is now how do you choose between the two, right? One way is to say I cannot reduce power consumption, I will increase the capacity of my battery, okay, or vice versa. I'll say I'll limit the cost of my battery, keep it small, but then I will optimize for the power consumption, okay. So just some rough numbers. Let us go one by one, yeah. So we said operating conditions, depending upon the application, the hardware might face different temperature ranges, humidity levels, and this will require a costlier implementation, right? And then what does accuracy of sensing mean? Where should be, what is enough accuracy? Obviously infinite accuracy is better. Depends upon the application, right? So there are situations where small changes in your sensing quantity actually impacts your performance, right? Particularly for health, if you look at it, right? So even if the person's body temperature changes by 2 degrees Celsius, it is critical, right? So therefore his internal temperature should be round about 37 almost all the time, right? So now you cannot design a temperature sensor which has resolution less than 1 degree or something, right? It cannot be like, okay, his temperature is 37, maybe it is 35, maybe it is 39, right? So this cannot be the argument, right? For this application, measuring it less than 1 Celsius is important, right?
What is the measurement range?
Yeah.
You can call it the dynamic range.
Correct. The range of measurement, right? So a person's body can never be
45
or 0 or 10, right? If the person's body temperature is 25, then there is a bigger problem, right? He is no more. So obviously, what is the temperature range? So that's a joke, but in the end, you will have situations where your range of temperature measurement can be whatever depending upon the application, and you have to choose your sensor accordingly, okay? That is this fellow, okay? Whatever is trying to sense has to be capable of measuring that temperature range and at a certain resolution, Okay, that is that. Now this fellow, what is the required sampling rate?
In application.
Exactly. So again depends upon the application, right? So you see now that for every single application you have a certain parameters to choose. Okay. Now take for example, let's take an example after this, but let's say sample rate. Pick an application. Let's say temperature of the room. Okay. How often do you think the temperature changes inside the room? It will definitely not change in milliseconds, right? It will take a long time to change. Yeah, maybe in orders of seconds. So even if you sample the room's temperature every 1 second, it is very much sufficient, right? It's not needed that you have to measure it, every 100 times in a second or every 1000 times in a second, because its changes are slow. On the other hand, there could be critical applications where, let's say, you are trying to measure the temperature inside a reactor. Okay, there you cannot say, okay, I will wait for 1 second. In that 1 second, something could explode, right? So therefore, this depends also on the application. So does delay, so does power consumption, and wired or wireless. Okay. So you don't want your wearable sensor to send a wire to your mobile phone, right? Nobody wants to wear such a wearable sensor, right? Obviously, this has to transmit this information wirelessly, right? Now the second question is how far it should transmit. You don't keep your mobile phone at your home and this wearable sensor need not transmit it very far, right? So obvious solution is to have it next to you and receive the signal right there, right? But on the contrary, a phone, for example, has to transmit the signal to the base station, maybe 100 meters away or 500 meters away, right? So here the protocol needed from the wearable to the phone versus from the phone to the base station will obviously be different. Okay, so the carrier frequencies will be different. The range is different, the encoding scheme is different, and so on, okay, which you will see later also. And what else? Okay, let's take an example. Wearable okay. Let's take this example of a wearable heart rate sensor, right? So we will kind of come up with some numbers for these parameters that we talked about. So what is the rate of our hearts beating? Approximately 70 beats per minute, not second. Okay, so it is 72 beats per minute. So this is equivalent to something like 1.2 beats per second, right? This is the nominal value, right? So obviously, if somebody is doing a lot of activity, this can go up. If somebody is sleeping, this can go down, right? So you have anywhere between, let's say, let's say 50 to 100. This is some rough examples, right? Or 120, let's say, beats per minute. This translates to approximately, let's say, approximately 1 to 2 hertz, right? This is the possible range of the heartbeat, correct? Now if you look at the actual sensor signal for heart, it looks something like this, right? Looks something like this, but then what is this time, worst case time? Worst case time, This is time. This is the signal. Heart is beating. How often does it beat? Worst case, about half a second, right? Okay. How did we get this? From 2 hertz, right? Now, how often should I sample this signal? How many of you have heard of Nyquist sampling rate? So how often do we have to sample? Okay. Is it correct to do that here? If you sample, let's say you have to sample it at 4 hertz, right? This corresponds to 0.25 seconds. Yes? No, but where do you have to sample this signal? Ideally, you should sample it here, 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 here. Correct? Now, how can you ensure this? Heart is beating on its own, right? You don't know when it will beat next. So, you cannot sample it at that time, right? So, what will you do? If the sensor is now sampling, let's say with an offset here, some small offset, it samples here, 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 here. This is still 0.25 seconds. What do you measure? That the person is no more, right? So obviously this is a challenge, right? So you need some minimum sampling rate so that you capture the signal sufficiently. And this Nyquist sampling is only good for some kind of a sinusoidal signal, right? Not for pulse signals. The bandwidth of pulse signal is much higher, okay? So it depends on the shape of this pulse, but let's say at least 10 times more than this, okay? Something like 20 hertz sampling rate, right? So a suitable sampling rate could be something like 20 hertz or higher, okay? So again, I am taking this as an example. Obviously, for different applications, for different sensors, you have different situations and values, right? Okay, that we got the sampling rate, right? So now, what should be the resolution of this measurement?
In this case, it is numeric, right?
Basically, you need some 1 bit, right? Either you can threshold this signal, right? Whenever it is high, you count, right? As such, you don't need very high resolution signal, right? But if you have, let's say, a temperature sensor between 0 to 100 degrees with a resolution of 1 degree, how many bits do you need? 100 levels, and 1 bit will give you at least 2 levels, right? And 7 will give 128. So obviously you need 7-bit resolution if you need for a temperature sensor which measures some temperature in the range 0 to 100, right? So this is the sampling rate, and for this, but for the heart rate, this can only be, let's say, 1 or 2 bits of data. But for temperature sensor, you need at least 7 bits for 0 to 100. If the range increases or if the resolution comes down, then obviously the number of bits will go up, right? Okay, so you know, these are rough numbers again. Anything else? Let's say, let's get rid of this part. And for the same heart rate sensor, let's say you use a lithium battery. What is the voltage of the lithium battery? What battery does your phone have? It's not 5 volts, lithium battery. 3.3 or 3.4 volts, right? So approximately 3.4 volts, that's your battery voltage. And what is the capacity? Depends on what phone you have, but typically this is in the range of what? Yeah, 3000, let's say, sure, 3500 milliamp hours, right? So this is the capacity of the battery, right? What is the units of this capacity? Capacity, watt hours, right? So this multiplies with this to give watt hours, okay? And what is this number? 3.4 into 3.5. Let's assume this is close to 10, right? I mean, we can get the exact number, 10 watt hours, right? Or this is, let's say, 10 watt hours, okay? Now, if we want our sensor to last 1 year, how much power should it consume? So 1 year has something like 365 days times 24 hours, right? Correct? So the power consumption should be this. Yes?
87.6 kilowatt hour.
What? What is the size of a kilowatt battery? Have you seen a 100 kilowatt battery? What is this? Somebody with a calculator. 11.9 watt.
Initially 10 watts, that is 11.9.
This is 11.9. Okay. Now you divide it by this. 365 into 24. Why divide? Why multiply? This is the capacity of the battery. This is the time you want to use it for. Right? So what should be the power?
So the power of appliance
Yeah. What is the answer to this? 0.00. Okay. So basically it has to consume only 1.3 milliwatts. Right? If you have to have a phone battery, right? Nobody wants to use a phone battery on their hand. Correct? It has to be even smaller than that, right? So this will give you the power constraint. This will give you the power constraint of your entire heart sensing module. Okay, this is the entire module, not just the sensor. Okay, now you have to have the sensor, you need to have some circuits, maybe a display, and then some kind of an A to D converter and a wireless transmission, right? All of these modules can only together consume only this much power. Okay, now this power has to be rationed to different blocks, right? You need to say I will only give maybe 1/10 of the power to the sensor, maybe 1/2 of the power to the analog to digital converter, okay, and half of the remaining power to the transmitter, something like that, right? This partitioning has to be done by you. Okay, so here you see all sorts of possibilities, right? Yeah, so you see all sorts of possibilities. Any questions so far with this, right? So depending on the application, you have to choose these numbers of power, sampling rate, resolution, packaging, and what kind of materials you choose, what is the source of battery, right, and so on. Okay. Form factor is even more important, right? How big it is. You cannot make a bulky system and host it on the roof, right? It has to be much smaller if it has to like sit there, right, in an easy way. So this is where these are kind of simple things, but the point here I'm trying to make is based on the application, your requirements change. So I think the next topic I want to talk about is the first. See, in the rest of this course, you will have different people talk to you about different components of this IoT system. Okay. So today what I'll do is maybe kind of the first part of an IoT system, right? So which is basically some kind of a sensor which has to be connected to some interface which then is connected to a DSP and then some digital to analog and then RF. Okay, so this is a interface circuit. Okay, so I will talk about this today. Okay, and for the next 1 hour or so, about how these two are important components in any kind of a sensor system. Okay, so the first topic here is sensors. All right. So what will we do in this topic is the following. What kind of sensors are available? Right? What are all the different possibilities? Right? Then what are their problems? Because in the end, just calling it a sensor is good enough for knowing about the sensor, right? This is a sensor, this does that. But in the end, you want to use it for some application. And the question is, when you use it for that application, it will not behave as an, perfect sensor. It will have its own problems, and what are those problems? And then the next thing is non-idealities, and then the next thing is modeling. So we look at these three, and then after this we will look at some simple interfaces. Okay, simple interface circuits for these sensors. All right. So let's get with the first topic here. The topic is, what are the different sensors that we have? Right? We have so many options, right? Let us kind of broadly classify them into some categories. Okay. So the first category could be chemical or biological sensors. The next one could be MEMS sensors, and the other could be, just put it in all in others, right? Within chemical and biological sensors, what are all the options that you have come across? pH is one. pH of what? Some liquids, right? Yeah. pH sensors. Then
Oxygen, carbon dioxide.
all kinds of gases, right? So you have NOx, SOx, CO, CO2, and so on, right? This list goes on, right? Anything else? Among biosensors,
Would we categorize this specifically in biological sensor because we use FETs and
we use what?
we use FETs and nanowires to create biosensors.
Yeah,
like,
so
no?
the implementations change, but in the end, it is actually
We can-
sensing something.
Yeah. So
What is it sensing?
the glucose levels, streptidine.
Glucose, yeah,
like
glucose
that.
sensors. This is now very common, right? You get it for like 20 rupees, one glucose sensor strip. Anything else? Yeah, sweat sensors, which actually essentially measure different ions in the blood, right? Sodium, potassium. Immunosensors, which measure different antibodies in the blood, right? So this could be in general categorized into bio, right? Immunosensors, yes. Do I have anything else here? No. Okay. Yeah, so those also measure glucose in urine, right? Yeah, there are so many such. So these, you notice, are using some kind of biochemicals inside the body, right? So these things are measuring parameters inside body. I mean, not the gas part, but the glucose and potassium and so on, sweat, parameters from inside body, right? What are the kind of MEMS sensors? So what does MEMS stand for? Micro electromechanical systems, right? So these are basically mechanical systems which are miniaturized using bulk micromachining or some silicon processing, surface micromachining techniques, okay? So that is what these MEMS sensors are. But what are the kinds that are commonly seen?
Accelerometers.
Accelerometers, yeah. Anything else? Gyroscopes. What are accelerometers useful for? Measuring movement, right? So activity levels, if somebody is sleeping, walking, climbing the steps or doing some activity, basically they can measure those changes, right? This is for consumer applications. You see accelerometers used for anything else? Proximity, yes, but in terms of accelerometers. Yeah, so all kinds of human activities, yeah, but then anything else apart from humans? Cars for what? No, car speed is measured by tire rotation. Sorry?
Shocker balloon.
I think you measure the vibration content.
You have airbags, right? Airbags are deployed using accelerometers. Basically, when something hits, there's a huge spike in signal, right? So accelerometers are used for that, okay? And an extension to this in MEMS was, somebody mentioned it, gyroscopes. What do they measure? Huh? Angle of rotation, right? Or the rate of rotation of angle, right? If something is rotating, you can measure how fast it is rotating and how much it has rotated by integrating that. Okay. So gyroscopes are those devices, and where is it used nowadays in phones for what actually? Huh? Orientation, right? Basically, you can measure, where the accelerometer, or for playing games, this is commonly used, right? So if you rotate the phone, the car steers, that is using this, or a combination of accelerometers also can do that. That's not a thing. But another common application for this sensor is for cars, where if the car is trying to, see, ideally what you want is, if you steer the wheel in the car has to rotate at the same rate. If that does not happen, then what does it mean? Car is skidding, right? You have turned the wheel, but the car is not rotating. So physically the car is now continuing to go in the same direction, which means it is starting to skid. And you need to identify this situation, and then in some of the sophisticated vehicles, you have, not sophisticated, it's also sometimes nowadays available here also, ABS. So you kind of turn on the wheels, brake the wheels in certain ways so that it puts you back on track without skidding. Okay. So that's some application. Anything else within MEMS?
In some cells I've seen that you have a compass built in. I don't know how that works. You can find out the direction.
Yeah, so there are these magnetic field sensors or magnetometers, which can measure Earth's magnetic field. Okay. Anything else here? Proximity sensors, do they fall under MEMS? Some of them, yes. The other thing similar here is any other MEMS sensor?
I've heard there are quite a few which are built into variables and
Yeah, like what? One more commonly used. So if the person climbs the building, it will kind of tell you how far you have climbed. How does it know?
barometer.
Barometers. So there are MEMS pressure sensors. Okay. This can also measure the changes in the air pressure, and then based on how much you have changed in altitude, it can give you this value, right? This is also used for a lot of pressure measurements inside, containers and so on, right? Magnetic field, pressure, also microphones nowadays. For what we saw, this is kind of similar to this. This is also nowadays sometimes done in MEMS. Okay, so there are all these possibilities, right? And now among the other kinds of sensors that we have, what are all other possibilities that you have seen among sensors? Temperature, moisture,
Conductivity.
temperature, moisture, optical. What kind of optical sensors? There are so many kinds.
Measure distance.
Huh?
Measure distance.
Measured distance. Photo? LDRs, right? LDRs are one. Photodiodes are another. Even here there are categories like avalanche photodiodes, then there are spin diodes, then there is single photon avalanche diodes, right? Anything else with optical? Phototransistors, yeah. LEDs are actuators.
LiDAR.
Yeah,
that is
LiDARs are
speed
a
sensor.
system. LiDARs are not individual sensors. So what I'm talking to about is
Speed sensors, we
transducers.
can say.
Transducers which take some physical quantity and convert it into electrical signals. Okay, LiDARs are systems. They include one of this plus a lot of signal processing and digitization and so on. Okay.
Level measurement.
Water level. Yeah, how does this measure water levels? Some kind of a resistance change, right? So that's what it is. Although it's water level, you have like different resistance and you have measuring the resistance between two electrodes. All right. Capacitive sensors, touch sensors. All right. This comes under the category of capacitive or resistive. There are both kinds, right?
Optical we can add IR, no? IR sensor.
That's a kind of photodiode. Right? Cameras also are an array of photodiodes. Right? Cameras are also an array of photodiodes. Right? Ultrasound is a kind of microphone. Right? So this is a broad category of touch, soil. Yeah. So I think we have another possible thing is called Hall sensors, which measure magnetic fields. Okay, Hall sensors. So you see now all possible, this is just not, these are not just all the possibilities, right? There are many more, right? There are many more, and what you notice is that the spectrum is huge, that you have so many possible options to sense. Okay, is this clear? So therefore, you know, which one do you pick and build what with it depends on the application, right? So each of those we will see next. It actually gives you different kinds of outputs. Okay, let's we have these we have some environmental parameters, and then there is a sensor, and this sensor can be any of that, right? I can pick any one of these and put it here. Yeah, what kind of outputs does, what kind of output is possible? Let's put it that way. Yeah, so there is different, so in the end this has to be some kind of an electrical parameter, right? You need to get some kind of an so there are so many options here. I mean, even if you count all of this, right, there are nearly, I mean, hundreds of parameters that you can actually monitor, right? It could be different Gauss concentrations, different levels of light, motion, magnetic field, you know, angle of rotation, that, this, so on, so forth. But in the end, all of this has to collapse to only few of these possible electrical parameters, right? And what are they? Some voltage signal. What else? Some current, resistance, cap. Anything else is left?
Frequency.
Frequency, yes, good point. Actually, these two are kind of connected to something else. R, L and R, C and L. I told the answer. Okay. And inductance. Right? So these, this and this are connected to this. Okay? A frequency change occurs due to change in one of those others in a circuit. Okay. So these are the only few possible changes that you get at the output of the sensor. Okay. So just take some examples, right? Okay. So what are the, maybe we'll come back to this. Now I leave this as it is, I will not erase it. We'll take a break. Okay, come back in 10 minutes, right? Sharp at 11:45. Yes, please. RF sensor.
Which can measure radio frequency, sir. RF sensor.
So RF sensor
Yes.
is essentially some kind of an antenna, right, which is picking up the electromagnetic signals, right? So later on you have to rectify it and so on to get the signal. So I mean, just in the break, you know, think about these different sensors. How do they actually give these kinds of output? Which category of sensor there will give this category of outputs? Okay.